Now at Menards, save big money on your next project with 11% off everything. Enhance your home security with TrueBolt electronic lock sets. The TrueBolt Trinidad electronic entry lever provides keyless access to your home with a programmable keypad and is available in 4 finishes. Get it today for only $74.99 after 11% rebate at Menards. Good through July 30th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
To the Balloon Party with Tim McKernan on 101 ESPN.
Driven by Munganast Acura.
Yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party, driven by Munganast, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota here on 101 ESPN. And you can also watch on YouTube and talk it over in the YouTube chat or text into our Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. Tim McKernan and Action Jackson with you. Coming up, probably about 45 minutes worth of Cardinal discussion. Starting at about 10:15, 10:16 as the trade deadline is a week and 7 hours away. And how different will the Cardinals look between now and then? We will certainly spend a good amount of time on that coming up on the program, but we are calling an audible today on the scheduling for Tuesdays. We always talk it over with Taylor Twellman, presented by Together Credit Union. And Taylor today, Jackson, is sitting down with Messi at 10:20.
A decent little get there.
Yeah.
That's a decent little get.
And so we are moving Taylor up, even though personally, I think as far as recognizability goes, it's me and then Messi.
I would say so, certainly in this region.
Thank you very much, but Taylor sees it otherwise, so I'm going to acquiesce. And we join Taylor Twellman right now before he sits down with Messi. What a big hour for you. You get to talk with me and then Messi, Taylor.
Well, you're assuming I'm talking to Messi. I didn't say what I was doing. I said I was just sitting down. So I may be his driver. I may be putting makeup on him. I may be trying to shoes. I mean, you're assuming I'm actually going to have a conversation with him, which, by the way, just a subtle flex, would be the 5th time in 8 days I've done so.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
How about that?
That's awesome.
Look at that.
That's incredible.
How about that? So let me ask you.
Maybe I'm his caddy. Maybe
you are carrying his bag around South Florida. So let's talk about this. What have you been doing and spending your time with Messi? How well do you know the gentleman?
I've done 15 cities in the last 24 days. I am exhausted. No one listening cares about my life and whether I'm exhausted, but I'm saying that because Messi turned my life upside down, turned everyone's life in Major League Soccer's life upside down for a good. It's been interesting. You got an All-Star game. You got Leagues Cup. I've done many different things in my lifetime, but this is a little bit of a how would I say this? I feel like I'm a rock star kind of life where 6 a.m. flights, all that thing. The only difference is I'm not flying private.
You're not flying private. You're not going on the Wheels Up or the Net Jets. You're going commercial.
Well, I want points. You know me, Tim. I'm only doing something that benefits me, and if it's not benefiting me, then I'm not going to do it. Listen,
I totally respect that.
Honestly, it's been amazing, right? You know what Messi's done and just the attention he's brought to score a goal the way he did, to have the storybook ending the way he had. It's everything and more. And now tonight, you know, at 7:30, he takes on Atlanta United, where there's so many different storylines for his head coach, for Joseph Martinez. Now we're going to see the real meat and potatoes of it, because it's no longer the introduction. Now he's going to be in the thick of it. What does it look like? What did Miami look like? it's going to be interesting to see.
So with regards to what transpired, and for those who are not familiar with it, he scored a goal, what was it, the 94th minute, if memory serves?
First off, if anyone listening has no idea what we're talking about, they need to have their brains checked or their life checked, because they may have, where are you living, under a rock?
Jackson knew. I could tell you were nodding as I was saying it.
I got to see it live. One of the coolest sports moments in my recent
You were watching
memory.
live when it happened?
Yeah,
really?
I got home right at the time when he checked in, and so I watched the 40, 50 minutes he was on the field, and to see that goal was just unbelievable. Storybook stuff.
Yeah, insane, right? We can talk about David Freese's home run. We can go all through the Cardinal moments, right, that we've experienced both negatively and positively. We can talk about Tom Brady 28-3 comeback. We can go through real moments, the World Cup final this year with Messi and Mbappe. But in the 94th minute, how often do you have a walk-off goal in your opener as the greatest of all time in an introduction to a league and team and country and continent that is begging for a real, I would say, rocket ship to the moon type moment? I can't believe he not only had it, he delivered.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. And as Taylor said, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out because it truly was absolutely phenomenal. So you are going to be spending time with him here in about 15 minutes. So we will get you on and then let you tend to talking to the biggest athlete in the world. But what is your historical interaction with him? What can you tell our audience about him? People are certainly familiar with his name, but may not have seen him interviewed and know much about him. So what can you tell us about him?
He's very gentle. I think he's very smart. I think he's very happy, which I think the listeners would appreciate. He scores this goal, this iconic goal in his first game here in the United States. He runs over to the sideline, celebrates with his mom, dad, his 3 boys, and just the picture that will stand out for me for years to come is when he's tying his shoes, getting ready to come into the game. LeBron James, Serena Williams, David Beckham, Kim Kardashian right behind him with their cell phones out, taking a picture of the moment. He supersedes all of them. If there's an A list, he's an A-plus list. He's that kind of guy. And yet the way he treats people, the way his energy is, the way he interacts with fans, I don't think people fully understand. At the age 14, he was LeBron James. He was anointed the great one. He was told he was never going to be that good because he was too small, too short, and yet 800-plus goals later, he's proved everyone wrong. I just think it's a little bit ridiculous that I am talking to him about him in Major League Soccer in 2023 after he won the World Cup 8 months ago.
What kind of tangible impact have you already seen? I've seen the recent report on the MLS subscription now on Apple TV increasing materially since the announcement of him going into Miami, and then also what it has meant for. I think it. I don't want to say trickles down, but it impacts all the franchises, including City SC here in St. Louis, to have that recognizability into MLS. So how are you seeing it already, Taylor?
Zlatan scored one of the greatest goals in MLS history on his debut after landing 18 hours before against LAFC, playing for the LA Galaxy. And it was the biggest moment, I think, in this league's history on the field. It's in a derby. And the reason why I bring that up, it happened on Fox, and you could only see it in the United States. Apple TV, 28 hours after that goal went in, reported over 100 million views on Instagram and Twitter because of Apple TV's relationship with MLS and owning the rights to it. They are not geo-blocked. They are not constricted to anything. Think of that. 107 countries, no geo-block, no blackouts. In less than 36 hours, 100 million people saw a pink jersey with the number 10 on it that says Messi, representing Major League Soccer, representing Inter Miami, score that goal. I don't think people fully understand the magnitude of that, and that's how you can quantify this. You can talk about people watching the game, but off the field, what is he going to do with his 500 million Instagram followers is he can post anything and everything, and it could be seen in 107 countries because Apple TV decided to put their money into Major League Soccer and to give it a real opportunity to grow. That's where, Tim, I don't think anyone fully understands the magnitude of that. LeBron James block, think about it, block against the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals, you can only see it in the United States and Canada. Every time Messi does something, every single time, anyone can see it. Tim, you can't quantify that right now.
That's huge. You're right about that. That is absolutely huge, and the exposure that gives for MLS. Speaking of which, because he certainly had the option to go play elsewhere, including Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest stories of the last 24, 48 hours is Mbappe and the offer he received. What is your reaction to that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me right now because Saudi Arabia is a little hurt that Messi chose to come to the United States. Mbappe desperately wants to get out of Paris. He wants to go to Real Madrid. He will go to Real Madrid, and he can do so in 6 months. Now Paris is scrambling. So there's $1 billion on the table. 300 goes to Paris. 700 goes to Mbappe. And I'm on the record, and I'll stay on the record. If I'm going to Real Madrid, and I know I'm going in 12 months, and they can save $300 million or say 180 million euros right now and not take me right now, and I can become $750 million richer by going to play in Saudi Arabia. Guys, I'm going to Saudi Arabia because guess what? Real Madrid can save their money, and then when I can go there 12 months from now, they can go buy players now to make my team and eventually better. It's a win-win for Mbappe, if you ask me, because right now, why are you going to stay in Paris when they told you they're not going to play you? So this becomes very interesting. I think Paris is going to offer him $1.2 billion over the next 10 years. So he's going to have to make that decision, or it gets real ugly because in 6 months he can sign for free and go to Real Madrid. And Paris doesn't want to lose the greatest player in the world right now. I would say the best, not the greatest. Sorry. They don't want to lose him for free. But if I'm Mbappe, $750 million to go play in Saudi Arabia for 10 months, and then I go to Real Madrid, yeah, where's the dotted line?
My goodness, the money that's being thrown around, unbelievable. Hey, Taylor, I know you got to tend to business because you're talking it over with.
I got to go. Thursday night, I'll see you, Club America, boys.
There it is. All right, Taylor Twellman with Messi here in 10 minutes, and we appreciate it as always. Thanks, Taylor.
Sorry.
Taylor Twellman brought to you by Together Credit Union, and he's going right from me to Messi. And I don't know if there's a better parlay in the world than that.
That's that's one of a kind. That's like interviewing Wilt Chamberlain and then having Kareem on right after.
That's what people are drawing comparisons to. I would agree with that. And then, not only do we have Taylor Twellman talking with Messi, we have the Lil Piddles Half and Half, which is now sponsored.
It's everything's coming together.
We
got Taylor talking to Messi, Lil Piddles Half and Half sponsored. What's next? I mean, it can't get much better than this.
I agree with you on that. You can watch it take place on YouTube, 101 ESPN on YouTube. Subscribe to it. Enjoy it. It's magical. And then also text in 314-399-9646 Air Comfort Service. Text line, the Lil Piddles Half and Half. We will have a Cardinal-centric discussion for the next 45 minutes if I had to wager. Who knows, though? I don't know what's coming up in the Half and Half. It's next here on Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.
From the opening drive, the balloon party, BK and Ferrario, to the fast lane and more. If you missed anything on 101 ESPN today, get caught up with all the shows and 101 podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Hey, it's BK. Remember that childhood piggy bank, all the satisfaction that you felt when you were finally reaping the rewards of your diligent savings? Well, with Truehold, you can access your biggest piggy bank ever. The equity in your home. You can start enjoying that retirement that you planned right now, and you don't have to move. Here's how you do it. Truehold will buy your home for its best current value while that value is still high, and you get to bank all the cash right now while you continue living in your home for as long as you'd like. Plus, Truehold will cover all the property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance too. And since Truehold pays your home's current value in cash, it's yours to do whatever you'd like with. You can start enjoying your home's equity while that value is still high. The way to do it is go to Truehold.com, and you'll discover how much they'll buy your home for today based on its best current value. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit Truehold.com for the smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's full value without having to move. Visit Truehold.com.
Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota, better than ever for you, the customer. They service all makes and models, regardless if you bought from them. Visit stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com.
ESPN has your chance to score free tickets to see comedian Nate Bargatze performing 3 shows at the fabulous Fox Theater, October 24th, 25th, and 27th. Due to high demand, a 3rd show is just added. Don't miss the Be Funny Tour as it hits St. Louis for 3 dates this October, featuring Nate Bargatze. Get all the ticket details and get entered to win those free tickets now at either 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Welcome back. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. As you just heard, it's time for the Little Piddles Half and Half, and it's sponsored by Angry Beaver.
Yep. You mentioned Piddles, $5 off.
Unbelievable. Your currency now.
I am a $5 bill, but this half and half, it's worth more than that. We have read Bob Nightingale saying that Wilson Contreras is on the trade block, and Ben Fred's article this morning in the Post-Dispatch today gives plenty of context on the Contreras front. What likelihood percentage would you put on him wearing a different uniform this time next week? Also, what do you make of John Mozeliak's quote of addressing Contreras' role in the offseason as also stated in the Ben Fred article?
Great column by Ben Fredrickson this morning in the Post-Dispatch. I listened to Bob Nightingale yesterday on with BK and Ferrario, and to reemphasize, he says he's on the block. That doesn't mean that he's going to get traded. Because, as John Denton said on our show last week, they were speculating on what the Cardinals would have to pick up on that contract, and his guess was $40 million. Yeah. I don't know if he was being serious when he said that, but that gives you an idea. I can't imagine the Cardinals would pick up $40 million or even anything remotely close to it. What I could imagine happening, Jackson, is the Cardinals picking up money and then also packaging a prospect to entice a team to take it. And if the Cardinals are indeed going to move on from Wilson Contreras, then that would be the way that I think it would take place. I will put it at 25% that he's traded.
Wow, that's higher than I thought you would go. Huh.
Because that's the way that I think that it would have to go in order for it to happen.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with that. I mean, I think it would be a great move on the Cardinals' part. I wonder what...
Can you really call anything a great move when you identify somebody as your top prospect for catcher, which to me was unnecessary in the first place if you weren't going to get what you really wanted, which is Sean Murphy, then pay him $87.5 million, and 2 months into the season you say he's not ready to be your catcher, and then 4 months into the season you want to trade him away and eat salary? I mean, that's not a great move. That is an absolute disaster of a baseball move. Now, with that said, we don't know this to be the case. Bob Nightingale is the only person who is saying that he is on the trade block. And just because somebody's on the trade block doesn't mean that he'll get traded, as we said before. But from my standpoint, this is how I look at it. If you are able to trade him, then you can take some of the dollars that you had to allocate for him if you don't believe he is the answer, and then tend to it with pitching. So that's why I would be all for it. Offensively, over the last month, he's been really good. But if you don't believe he is your catcher, and then he is going to be a 34, 35, 36-year-old designated hitter, and you're paying him, $87.5 million, it's just a brutal move. But you don't just keep doing it just because you made one mistake. You bail, just like I thought was the case, and that's why I love that Allen Craig trade a decade ago.
Right, and when I say great move, it's given that context, it's the best move possible forward for the Cardinals, in my opinion. So obviously what has gone on with the Willson Contreras saga in St. Louis would be not classified as great, but to get rid of him would be a good move for the Cardinals. My question is how much of that no trade clause do you think comes into play? Like, do you think that he would be open to joining a new team?
Yes.
Or that's because I don't know, because he said in the offseason how much he loved the Cardinals organization and the way they go about things. But now that the season started and he was kind of scapegoated for the pitching problems early, I would have to think that he would be pretty open to being moved, much more open than Goldschmidt or Arenado probably. I think that would be classified as the case. All right, next question. When looking to 2024, which period of time do you think will yield more pieces that will prove to turn this team around and become contenders again? This trade deadline coming up on August 1st or the 2023-2024 offseason? It would seem obvious, but given the past few years, the deadline has seemed to have more activity than the offseason.
I would say the next 7 days will be some of the most pivotal for the Cardinals that we have seen as far as a stretch of 7 days in the Bill DeWitt ownership era, which may sound like an hyperbole, but my expectation is Hicks, Montgomery, Flaherty, O'Neill. I would parlay that. I don't know what kind of odds I would get that all four will be gone.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I think you could see a surprise name or two as well. As far as, a name that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be gone. I think the Cardinals are in a really unique position in that there aren't a lot of great candidates out there for sellers. In other words, the Oakland A's are a seller. Mm-hmm. But how many people, when you look at the Oakland A's roster, do you go, oh, that's somebody who can get us over the top? The Kansas City Royals are a seller. They're not trading Bobby Witt Jr. So how many pieces can you look at on the Royals that can get you over the top? The Cardinals do have the pieces, which is really a condemnation of their performance, that you do have some pieces that you would think other organizations would be interested, and they're one of the only teams, because 20 teams are either in a playoff spot or within 5.5 games of a playoff spot. And so the Cardinals are one of those only teams, and they have desirable commodities, unlike, for the most part, the Pirates. They have Mitch Keller and David Bednar. But outside of that, then you have the Royals and the A's and some teams that are just kind of woebegone. So the Cardinals have those pieces. They have pieces in the outfield, theoretically. They have pieces in the starting staff, and they have pieces in the bullpen. And so they're in a hell of a spot. And I also still think if he is willing to be traded, Paul Goldschmidt would be a hell of a commodity. I think it goes without saying. It's just a matter of whether or not he would be willing to be traded. And that's why I wonder on the Contreras thing, them just trading him and getting somebody in return, that's not the way that it would be. The Cardinals, I think, could attach a prospect and go, okay, you need a catcher who can hit. We got that. We realize you don't want that salary. We'll take a piece of it, and we'll attach a prospect to try to justify it. That's how I think that would get done. So, my point being, I think you will see more movement over the next 7 days for the Cardinals than you have seen in any time during Bill DeWitt's ownership. That is my expectation.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point on the uniqueness of what the Cardinal situation is, because not only do you have these, like you have two guys who finished first and third in the MVP voting last year, and you're going to be sellers, but like you're also sellers that could be right back into it with a good trade deadline, good offseason, right back next season. Like I don't like you talked about the Royals and the A's, like those teams are not 1, 2, 3 pieces away, and they don't have the commodities. It is actually so strange, but it all goes into the strangeness of the 2023 Cardinals. We have discussed before that guys who are tradable and who are not, and Nolan Gorman seems to be the guy who has divided fans and pundits alike on whether he is going to be available for trade. Would you let go of Gorman for the right price or package him up? Does his midseason slump give you any pause on your answer?
I'd be willing to part ways. Yeah, absolutely. What about you?
It's so difficult because you got to prioritize power, and he has so much of that. So, like, that's the thing about the midseason slump that doesn't scare me as much, because as long as he gets to 30 bombs, like, he essentially accomplishes what you've signed him to do.
Yeah, I suppose my reasoning is I don't know if there's anybody I go, oh, that person is absolutely untradeable. So the question exists in a vacuum as to whether or not I would trade him. And I would, but then, of course, the full scope of the analysis will be what did you get in return? And most likely a number of the players who become members of this organization over the next 7 days are going to be names that most of the people have not heard of, because they're going to be minor league players.
Right. That's also something that I always think about, too, is like what do you get when you get stuff in return? Like, how many of these guys are going to be ready? If you are planning to retool for 2024, how many guys are actually going to be ready come 2024 to be effective? Because you're going to be getting rid of guys who you've kind of developed over the couple of 3 years. Like, I don't know. I feel like guys in their mid-20s like can really make a huge jump around 27 or 28. So it's kind of tough for a guy like Gorman who's 23 or 24. How do you know what his ceiling is? How do you know what his floor is? And so that's always a tough, and I think that's part of the reason that we've seen some guys flourish outside of the organization once they've left, is just needed more time to develop. That's why I'm not giving up on Matthew Liberatore by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, is that right? Really?
No, at 23 years old, the guy coming in, fast track to Major League Baseball like he has been, part of a big trade. I think there's some nerves and just some development that needs to be done there. Like, I don't want to, close the book on a guy at 23 years old. I don't think people are necessarily, but there's certainly a lot of concern. And that's warranted, don't get me wrong. He has not been good in Major League Baseball, but he's so young and he has so much potential and talent that I think, closing the book on some guys too early, I think, is sometimes the Cardinals' pitfalls, but there's been a lot of pitfalls in the last couple of years.
Your thoughts are welcome. 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line is how you can get involved on the program. It's the Little Piddles Half and Half, now sponsored by the Angry Beaver here on 101 ESPN. We will come back with the second half of the Half and Half, presented by the Angry Beaver here on Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota's presentation of Balloon Party, 101 ESPN, and YouTube. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota online at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. And you can call and text the people in charge at Munganess with any questions or comments you may have for them. 314-252-0029. That is the number for Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota, exclusively for our listeners, for any questions, comments you may have for the people in charge at Munganess. That's Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, Peter Munganess, amongst many who can help you at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. You can go shopping at stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com and work with the great people at Munganast. And even if you didn't get your car from Munganast, get your car serviced at Munganast. What a wonderful service department they have at Munganast. It's St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota. Go shopping at Munganast, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota by going to stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com or calling or texting 314-252-0029.
Section.
Hey, gang, sorry I'm late. The other surgery went a little longer than anticipated.
Nah, You haven't missed much.
Oh, good. What's this guy getting? A car?
He's selling his kidney to get a new HVAC system installed.
Oh, an overpriced HVAC system. This is like the third person this week.
You don't have to sell your kidney to afford an HVAC system from Swiss Air Heating and Cooling. Ron, the Wizard of Comfort, will guide you to the lowest cost of ownership. Not only does Swiss Air offer a 29-point cooling system check for just $69, but right now get $35 off any service call. Swiss Air also uses only the best equipment, such as the new energy-efficient Daikin Fit system. Repair or replace, Swiss Air gives you the lowest cost of ownership. If your system does break down, Swiss Air will provide a temporary cooling system. Call Ron, the Wizard of Comfort, at 636-500-COOL. That's 636-500-COOL. Or go to SwissAirSTL.com for the $69 magic tune.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
I'm Jim Onder. When you're injured and in your darkest hour, Onder Law is not only on your side, we're by your side.
Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-900,000 to learn more.
Check out the Bach About It podcast with Brooke Grimsley and Cardinals Spanish language broadcaster Polo Asensio on 101 ESPN. They're not balking around. Watch Bach About It on our YouTube channel or listen to the podcast now at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals win last night in Phoenix, 10-6 your final score over the Diamondbacks. They take on the Diamondbacks again tonight. 8:40 p.m. is the first pitch. And in NBA news, Jaylen Brown and the Celtics have agreed to sign the richest deal in NBA history, a 5-year, $304 million Supermax contract extension. That was another Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and also on YouTube on 101 ESPN's YouTube channel. Tim McKernan and Action Jackson with you here on the program, and it is now time for the second half of the Lil Piddles Angry Beaver half and half.
Yes, and I'm going to go off script a little bit here, Tim, just real quick. We kind of talked about it on TMA. I think it's interesting. Do you think that the Angels will deal Shohei Ohtani at the deadline?
I thought for sure that they would, and now I see that they are close enough in the wild card where I would think they actually may not.
I'm going to go the other side of you. I think that they will, and then try to re-sign him in the off season. I think they move him, get a couple pieces for him, and then spend I can't even imagine what that. I just read Jaylen Brown's contract. I can't imagine what Shohei Ohtani's is going to look like. But I think that they, even because their standing, I don't think that they have a chance in the American League to make some real moves. But I think if you can get some for him and then try to re-sign him in the offseason, I don't know. I think that would be my bet. If I had to bet money, I would say
that they will trade him in the next week?
I think they will trade him in the next week and then try to re-sign him in the offseason.
They're 4.5 out of the third wild card spot in the American League. And I was of the opinion, I think just last week, I'm like, of course you trade him. Do whatever you can. But 4.5 back, and seeing how the baseball playoffs, which personally drives me up the wall, but the math is what the math is. It's kind of like the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's wide open. And I usually say the NBA playoffs. This year was certainly a different example.
Yeah,
we saw an 8 seed get in there. But we saw it with the Phillies, the 6 seed last year. They played the 5 seed in the NLCS, the Padres. So if I'm the Angels and I know Mike Trout is going to be coming back, and you're just not exactly sure what you have. You're competing against 4 teams in the American League East who are all chasing the Orioles at the moment. I think you got him. This is your chance to really convince him, is to get into the playoffs and make a run.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, a week ago, I thought for sure they trade him. And of course you trade him. But 4.5, like if the Cardinals were 4.5 back of a wild card spot,
they would not be trading.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals are 9 back of the third wild card spot. So it's not an easy one. I'm not saying that it's a lock one way or the other, but if I had to bet the bankroll, I think that they would hold on to him.
All right, yeah. Hey, listen, it's going to be...
And that's totally changing my opinion from last week, and that's because they are now 4.5 back.
Yeah, I didn't honestly think about the playoff situation, because if you are Shohei Ohtani, you're like, yeah, I've been living in LA, it's great, but we don't win, so it's kind of annoying. And I would get that, but...
my guess is he's going to continue to live in Los Angeles. He's just going to be wearing blue next year.
Yeah,
that's what
traveling a little bit north. And then my second part of this off-script of part of the half and half is we saw Adam Wainwright almost get to 199 last night. Do you think he makes it to 200 before the season ends?
Man, I really hope so. I really do. And based on last night, he was striking some guys out, which was not something I necessarily expected. How many people, if you would have set the over-under on what he was able to do last night, most people would have gone under. I built out a daily fantasy roster, and I included him on it, and I saw that 0.3% of the field had Adam Wainwright, and I put him on my team in part because I figured nobody would have him on the team. I didn't expect only 0.3%. I would love to see it. If you asked me to bet the bankroll on whether or not, how many starts realistically, and this is assuming he can pitch healthy.
7 at the most.
7 at the most?
6 is probably more likely.
Okay. Which means he has to win 2 of those 6 or 7. I'd love to see it. I don't know. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to wager on it?
Yeah, you know
bet
what?
against Pujols last year, or why don't you bet against Wainwright this year?
Yeah, is someone else retiring? Any more greats looking to retire so I can bet against you?
Yep.
Count me in. I'm in on, because I don't think. Listen, I saw his
$20 is in.
$20
booked.
Yep. His velo was up a little bit last night. Now he was like throwing a fastball 88 miles per hour,
right.
But that is up. Based on his old stuff, but I just don't see it. It's the velo thing, man. If you don't have a fastball, I've said it before, then you don't have a changeup, and then that Uncle Charlie, that 12-6 becomes a lot less lethal when you're not seeing fastballs anymore. So I just don't think it's in the cards for him. I wish nothing more. I can't. If I Venmo you that $20, I'll do it with a smile on my face.
Oh, wow.
Because Adam Wainwright has been he's like my baseball grandfather throughout my whole life. So I have nothing but love and respect for Adam Wainwright, but I just don't think it's going to happen. All right, moving on to the second part of the half and half, the scheduled part of the half and half. This gets into the sports business side of the half and half. So Leo Messi joined Inter Miami, as we talked about with Taylor Twellman at the beginning of the show, and he scored his first American goal on Friday in his debut. That record-breaking viewed game, along with Apple TV subscriber numbers and the possibility of other European stars coming stateside, is now the time to buy stock in American soccer. Obviously, the World Cup is coming in 2026. Do you think my judgment of this is somewhat clouded due to our new team and their recent run of success?
I would continue to buy as much stock as I could in soccer in the United States. Mm-hmm. I feel strongly about that. If you see kids in the 10 years old, give or take a couple of years, what are they wearing?
EPL.
They're not wearing a lot of baseball jerseys.
No, they are not.
In comparison to, when I was coming up, or even when you were coming up, I think.
Yeah.
You see a lot of VPL jerseys, and I think you're going to see around St. Louis, I already see it, a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
pink.
City Red, dogs merch.
City Red. So from that standpoint, absolutely. I think the time to buy it would have been a while ago, but still I think the stock's going to continue to increase. So you might be going, well, it's like buying Apple or Tesla. It's been going up, but hell, I think it's still going to go up, so I might as well buy.
Yeah.
You're just going to be getting it at a higher price point. But yes, I would buy it. And I think what's transpired with Messi and some of those numbers that Twellman was giving us at the start of the program and the Talking with Taylor on Tuesdays presented by Together Credit Union, which I believe is what
you nailed it again. Week and week, you nail it every time.
That all that does is enhance the brand of MLS, which I saw in an interview with Carolyn Kindle. She was talking about everybody benefits from that. It's a real shame that St. Louis didn't get a chance to see him a couple weeks ago when Miami was in town. But nonetheless, understandable that they would want the debut to be a home game. It's just a shame they missed him because it's not like they come back here automatically as they every other year, the home teams with the Eastern Conference. So with that said, or home games with the Eastern Conference. But as far as its impact on MLS, and then as you made reference to the World Cup coming back 32 years after 1994, buy stock in it all day. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think when you look at like the historical context of it all and what David Beckham has done for American soccer, and there might be some real soccer heads that will correct me on this, but when David Beckham came over to the LA Galaxy, I remember it being huge news. It was like one of the biggest players to join the MLS, probably the biggest player to join the MLS. And now 10 years later, he signs and brings over arguably the greatest player of all time. And what David Beckham has done for this American soccer is unbelievable. And what Messi could do if other European players were like, hey, I can make a good amount of money and kind of dominate into my late 30s over there and just bring more and more attention to American soccer on top of the World Cup being here in a couple of years, I think the sky's the limit. I don't know if it's going to replace one of the four major American sports, but I think it has as good a chance as any as it's ever had. I think there is a possibility in the next 10, 20 years that it could.
Jackson and I are both buying stock. Where are you on it? 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line. Tim McKernan, Action Jackson with you. The program is called Balloon Party. It is driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota here on 101 ESPN.
World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Extreme Outlaw Midgets, and the high banks of Federated Auto Parts Raceway. Friday and Saturday, August 4th and 5th, it's the Iron Man Weekend in Missouri, presented by Festus Tourism Commission. Don't miss high-speed, fire-breathing outlaw sprint cars, along with the action-packed Extreme Outlaw Midgets in their most challenging event all season. August 4th and 5th at Federated Auto Parts Raceway. Tickets at worldofoutlaws.com or call 844-DIRT-TICKS. Be there!
Hey, it's Lauren. Walter Knoll Florist is delivering fresh, beautiful flowers today. Why? Well, because when you give flowers and treats from Walter Knoll, you're sending your love, your care, your friendship in the most beautiful way. The reactions are priceless, and the feelings, they last forever. From birthdays to work celebrations, even that friend who's maybe had a tough day at work, show them how much you care. Walter Knoll Florist can make your world a better place. Just 3 letters, WKF.com, and see all the choices. Go now, Walter Knoll Florist.
The Bullpen Sports Grill in Leadington, Missouri has the basics covered. Drinks, sports, and live entertainment. Come enjoy great food, cold beer, and fun activities, such as pool, arcade games, and a mechanical bull on the weekends. Happy hour at the Bullpen is from 3 to 5, Monday through Friday, and features discounts on select drinks and apps. Be sure to follow the Bullpen on Facebook and Instagram to check out all of the fun events and daily specials. The Bullpen Sports Grill, another awesome locally owned restaurant supported by Kuna Food Service.
This is the Balloon Party with Tim McKernan, live from the Car Shield studio on 101 ESPN.
Welcome back. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Alton Toyota Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Timothy Michael McKernan, Action Jackson with you. Final segment. Then BK and Ferrario take over at the top of the hour. Action Jackson with his Lil Piddles. Angry Beaver, half and half.
Yes, indeed. All you got to do is mention Piddles, and you get $5 off any pizza at Angry Beaver, right by the ballpark there. All right, continuing with the sports business questions. This stuff really interests me, this particular question I have. So this could be me looking too deep in the future, but I'm very interested in the switch to stream when it comes to sports. It seems to me that eventually, and certainly in a partial format in the near future, that streaming sports will be the norm. Do you think that there will be an arms race between streaming services for live sports rights? Wouldn't you think Apple would be the front runner for more and more rights to sports since they have proven that they've done it at a very high level with the MLS? Or do you think the leagues themselves will stream the games, or will there be streaming partners? How do you think this is all going to work? And do you think it's going to take place in the next 5-10 years?
Oh, yeah. Within the next 5 years for sure. I would say Apple is certainly likely. And I would be surprised if the leagues did it, because then that means they would have to have the expense to then develop the platforms.
Right.
Unless I'm missing where you're going with that.
No, I see what you're saying, because I know that, and I'm going to obviously talk about the NBA in this situation, but I know that the NBA has their own platform, but what it does is it's just a host that takes you to the individual broadcasts of the games, which are done by regional sports networks. Mm-hmm. When those become a thing of the past, they'll have to employ this. So yes, I would think that more than likely you will see streaming companies do that. That will be the partners, or possibly networks starting their own streaming companies, and that becomes the network, or that becomes where they stream the games. What is interesting to me is people like Netflix have kind of bowed out of the race when it comes to live sports, and they've also tried doing live programming, and it hasn't really worked. They've had technical issues. Apple has proven that they can do live sports.
I recall that. What technical issues did they have?
It was some love dating show, and
is that right?
I know the listeners are surprised I wasn't locked in on that information, but it was some sort of reunion of a dating show.
Netflix did this, and they had technical issues?
Yes, so they did a live stream they were doing it live. It was like Netflix Live, and they did this with the Chris Rock special. The Chris Rock special was done live, and that worked. But they had massive issues for an hour and a half, and then they just ended up posting it 6 hours later.
Wow.
So it didn't. So they have shown that they kind of aren't in that. I think Netflix is more likely just to stick around with sports documentaries and stuff like Drive to Survive and
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind.
Some of the texters are on top of it. Thank you so much. Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. When Jackson references dating shows that had streaming issues, our audience is on top of it.
Yes, and then also Prime Video has done Thursday Night Football and Amazon Prime, and to me, it worked. I have never had issues with it, but I would think it would be Apple TV and Prime would be the people, if we're talking an arms race when it comes to live sporting rights, those two would certainly be in the catbird seat, given that they've already proven they can done it, whereas Netflix and Hulu's done live sports, but not to a scale of the NFL or the MLS. But I find this stuff really interesting when it comes to the switching to streaming of sports, because we know the hybrid model is probably coming sooner than later when it comes to there'll be games on TV for people who have cable subscriptions and streaming for a separate price for people who just want to watch it on their devices. And I think that being resistant to it at this point would be you're kind of burying your head in the sand. Like, and I'm not saying that to like cast aspersions, but it is coming. And I mean, we've already seen it. You can only watch Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. And people do it because the NFL has a chokehold on this country like you wouldn't believe. So, I don't know. I just find that stuff very, very interesting when it comes to streaming sports. I saw this question yesterday, Tim, asked by Paul Feinbaum. And I think it's in reference to, Twitter is rebranding as X. Mm-hmm. And he said, what's the worst rebrand of all time? I ask you, what is the worst sports rebrand of all time? When you talk about sports teams or sports organizations rebranding, I have a couple that come to mind.
Give me some kind of a multiple choice here.
As you can imagine, I'm a uniform guy. I'm a big fashion guy. When the Falcons had the Michael Vick uniforms, when Michael Vick was a real star with the Falcons, the uniforms that they would wear were just gorgeous. And now they've switched.
Which ones are you talking about? Because they had the all black and then they had the red.
It was like a black and red. It was the end of Michael Vick's tenure there and like the beginning of Matt Ryan's tenure there. And these were these gorgeous uniforms, albeit Reebok uniforms, but gorgeous nonetheless. And now they're kind of this minimalistic, there's no stripes, there's nothing to it. I really dislike what the Falcons have done. I also don't like how much shade is in their stadium. It looks like you're playing in the dark, similar to where the Saints play.
I agree. I share that sentiment.
I don't like that. I like open air stadiums. I get that they're not practical when it comes to a business sense. Like, it makes much more sense to have a retractable roof, and I get that. It just doesn't look right. And then it looks like you're playing in like the darks, very similar to what it looked like when the Rams would take on the Domes. Unless the field was on fire, then there was plenty of light.
That did happen.
Yeah. So texters can text in too. Their worst way they think.
We're getting a lot on this. Actually,
shout out to Paul Feinbaum.
We're getting a lot. Those Miami Marlins rainbow uniforms. That was 2012, I believe. The Washington football team. That's a nice play on that. Could you explain why Reebok is a negative? That's from the 636. Yeah, you said something. What are you, anti-Reebok? Is that with you?
The Reebok uniforms were very, I will say, very early to mid 2000s looking. Like, if you like pull out like a Reebok jersey now.
Give me an example of one.
It's like so, I don't know what the word is, but like shiny and like
shiny.
It's like sleek and like this like weird polyester. And I'm talking about what they would sell to the people. I think what the players wore was a bit different. But the Nike uniforms now are like very modern, good looking. I think the Reebok ones, and you also think like, when's the last time anyone had a Reebok conversation? Like, oh, did you see my new Reebok pumps?
D. Brown, 1992 slam dunk competition.
Right. If we're talking Reebok and the next words coming out of your mouth is D. Brown, we're talking about something
31 years ago.
Yeah, that's not necessarily in the consciousness of.
Locally, I have no idea why the Cardinals switched from the red or the navy caps on the road to the red. I have no idea what that's about.
Nuts.
I'd like to see a rebranding.
Yeah.
If they're going to rebuild this franchise, why don't we start with the road caps?
Yeah.
And then I don't know what Missouri football. I don't know what to say about that.
Would you like to see them go back to the Block M fully?
I don't necessarily go Block M so much as I'm pro gold pants. I'm pro navy caps for the Cardinals. Pro gold pants for Missouri. Pro navy caps for the Cardinals. And really, in an odd way, feel strongly about it.
No, it's good.
In an existence at this point in which very few things really get me worked up for whatever reason, when I see the Cardinals on the road wearing those red hats, it bothers me. And like, I was watching highlights of Scott Rowland's career for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony this weekend, and he hits a home run against the Tigers in 2006, and he crosses home plate wearing the Navy batting helmet. I go, why in the world did they get away from?
I know.
I mean,
it's brutal.
For what?
It's
to look like the Angels, Phillies, and Reds, those storied organizations?
Right.
What in the world?
It makes no sense.
It's such garbage.
It's hot garbage.
And Missouri's thing was, well, it's good for recruiting because that's worked out. And it's been a decade of the whole thing. And in reality, I understand the reasoning. It's because they get paid by Nike. That's fine. I guess you just can't say that.
Right.
As far as, but you say it's good for recruiting, you know. But nationally, that Marlins play is a nice. That was just so ham and egg too. I mean, they opened up that ballpark that nobody in Miami was clamoring for, and they trot out Muhammad Ali because the Cardinals were the first team they played.
I remember that, yeah.
And that was just, God, it was gross. And they had those dancers on the field, and they went out and signed a bunch of guys. And just like with the 97 world champion team, they immediately traded them all. It was like Hanley Ramirez and Reyes, and it was a disaster. The Washington football team is a nice play from the from the audience. Let's see what else we got here. Tim, what about 590 the man and 1380 the woman?
That's the greatest rebrand of all time.
I would agree with that.
That's the greatest.
That's the one that really wound up
working. That's the gold standard when you talk about rebranding. Exactly. Elon was studying it. I have 3 takes for you.
Okay, good. I like a good Jackson uniform branding take.
Yeah, 3 takes for you.
Okay.
1, the Detroit Tigers have the best baseball cap in baseball.
Wow.
The D logo is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
You'll take that over the Cardinal logo.
I unfortunately will.
Wow. Why do you hate St. Louis?
That royal looking Detroit thing is beautiful. I think it's so good, and I love the uniforms that just have it on there. I don't like the road uniforms that say Detroit. That's garbage. But the white ones with the D on the left breast, incredible. Second thing, I hate the gold pants, and you know my stance on this. I do not like the gold pants. I think it looks weird.
What Missouri football uniform really works for?
Home, give me black helmet, black jersey, white pant, road, all white. If that's what they did every week,
I can live with that.
Right.
I can live with that.
Right. I'm okay with a gold pant every once in a while. I'm not okay with gold on gold. That's about the worst looking thing of all time. Please don't do that. Enough with the white helmets, too. Let's stick with the black helmets, please. It just looks better. And then third take, the Rangers leaving their old stadium for this metal box that they currently play in is a bad rebrand.
Well, I think I agree. You know, the tribute to the dome in which the Texas Rangers play is odd, but I think they were in a spot that it gets so damn hot there that they had to have a roof option.
Sure.
Hence that ballpark.
I get it, but I mean, it looks like they're playing in a galvanized tub.
I'm in awe of that ballpark.
Yeah, and I think another bad rebrand, and I don't know if Chicago people would be upset, is if the Bears leave downtown. I get the whole thing that, you know, Soldier Field is always supposed to be temporary, but I love Soldier Field, the look of it from the outside.
What about this? Why don't we ship Jackson to 8 Mile so he can wear that white cursive D hat and he can act like it's Ledoux? That's from the 714.
I mean, it'd be good content.
It would be great content.
Just get a
Jackson's
GoPro on me.
Instagram
Just get a GoPro
around 8 Mile.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Young B Rabbit. That's what they call me.
Oh, God. If the Cardinals switch back to the blue away caps, we will no longer suck. The change is what has cursed this franchise from winning a World Series. It's from the 618. And to me, if we were giving away tickets, I would give it right there.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. And then the thing about it that irritates me even more is then they put a vote to the fans and then the fans voted for the Navy cap, and then they still went with the red.
Yeah, it's like nah, just kidding. That was all for show. One last one I'll give is New Orleans choosing the name the Pelicans for their basketball franchise.
It's a Pelican hotbed at the Delta.
Doesn't matter. I'm going to quote David Letterman when he pretended to be a press member on the Kevin Durant press conference, and he asked, "When you play the Pelicans, do you kind of giggle before you play them?" And KD said, "Yes."
Are you mad that Utah did not rebrand from the New Orleans Jazz to?
Yeah, that's another one.
When they went to Salt Lake, a hotbed
of jazz music. Yeah, no, that one they should have. Lakers stay the Lakers because that's really the Los Angeles Lakers alliteration. It works perfectly. The Utah Jazz is easily the strangest name in all of sports.
Yeah, I would agree with. I share your opinion on that.
Yeah, we're simpatico.
We're in lockstep. I want gold pants back down in Columbia.
Not for me.
Clear eyes, gold pants.
Can't lose.
That's exactly right. BK and Ferrario are coming up next for Action Jackson. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and on YouTube.
This is Action Jackson telling you about a new sponsor. That's Circa Sportsbook, and they got 2 major contests for our listeners. There's $14 million in guaranteed prizes. That's right. You heard me right. $14 million in guaranteed prizes. The first contest is the Circa Millions with $6 million in guaranteed prizes. It's $1,000 per entry with a maximum of 5 entries per person. You must register in person at Circa Sportsbook in Nevada. That's Las Vegas, Henderson, or Sparks and Reno. The winner of the Circa Million takes home $1 million. There's also quarterly and season-long prizes. You pick 5 teams against the spread every week. They also have the Circa Survivor Pool with $8 million guaranteed to the winner or winners. Again, $1,000 per entry, max 10 entries per person. You pick 1 team straight up every week to win. If the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick each team once. In the season, you go 20-0 or be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, they get the entire pot. If multiple people go 20-0 or multiple people are eliminated the same week, to reduce the contest to 0, you split the pot. It's all over at Circa Sportsbook. Register in person in Nevada, Las Vegas, Henderson, Sparks, and Reno. Weekly picks can be made through a proxy that you register with from anywhere. That's Circa Sportsbook.
Proudly serving the community for over 40 years.